Let's begin with the little girl. Where did the little girl, Andrea, start from?
My birth certificate says I was born in Chennai, but I actually spent the first 7 or 8 years of my life in this little town called Arakonam.
Okay, how come Arakonam? A lot of railway
Yeah,
background?
so both my mom and dad are from there. And I guess, right now I don't have anyone there because the whole family has moved. But when we were kids, it used to be really nice, you know. Arakonam, like you rightly said, was a railway hub and because of that, it was an Anglo-Indian hub. So, you know, there used to be a railway institute and we used to have all these. Christmas week was the best week of the year because you would have all these amazing little things, and at that point of time, there was quite a large Anglo-Indian community, and even people who had gone away would come back for the holidays. Nobody ever wanted to miss Christmas, and I think for quite a while after that, even after we moved to Chennai, I would long to go back to Arakonam for the holidays because my grandparents were there. And up until my grandparents were alive, I would always want to keep going back there, you know. I've so many happy memories associated with it.
You were saying during Christmas time there are a lot of these little things. What do you mean by little things? Things that happen, or the food, or?
Everything. I mean, you can't take food out of the Anglo-Indian equation. It just goes hand in hand. And so during the Christmas week, there would be a Christmas-related event or function, you know, and these little games and prizes for the kids, and there will be one jolly Santa Claus coming, and then there would be a Christmas dance, and then on New Year there would be a bonfire.
Oh.
Yes, there would be a bonfire and all of that. So now, you know, like I think a year or two ago, I saw the Burning Man. It's a music festival that happens in America, and they have this big bonfire, and I was like, hey, we've done this as a kid. So yeah, I mean, I don't remember the exact things, but I do remember the dance, the bonfire. We used to play housey, all of those little things, all happening in the Railway Institute.
Not to forget the kalkals.
Oh yes.
Rose cookies.
Oh, that was in the house. Everybody was cooking their hearts out.
Is that still a big part of your life?
My mom still makes rose cookies.
Yeah?
Yes, she does, and she makes, I think, the best rose cookies I've ever had.
Shall I tell you something? I'm probably the only Hindu you will find who can make kalkals.
What are you saying?
I'm telling you.
That's quite impressive.
I'm telling you, I learned from my
Even
mom.
I wouldn't do it. It's too much effort.
Yeah, with that fork.
I like
and
rose
stuff.
cookies. You dip them in and out. It's done. But that thing, you have to put it on the fork, you have to roll it. It's a lot of effort.
It's good fun.
It
I
is.
love eating them, of course.
Of course.
As you can
Everybody
see.
loves eating them.
As you can see. So you left Arakonam when you were approximately 7 years old.
Around
8 years
seven,
old?
yeah.
Came to
Chennai.
Madras then.
Yeah, Madras
Still
then.
Madras.
Exactly.
Makes us feel very old. No, but how was it? The difference for you from a small town, having lived there, and then coming this shock of big city.
Well, it wasn't that, in the sense we did have some family here, so we would keep coming and going, you know. And my mom would take us to those big grounds where they used to have these, you know, these fairs, these big trade fairs.
Exhibition.
Yes, my mother would bring us for those things. I remember eating these giant cotton candies and those big poppets with masala. Yes, I remember all of those things. So, I mean, it wasn't that much of a culture shock in that sense. I think what I did miss was the space, the greenery, because back then Arakonam was still a very green place. Now I wouldn't say so, not so much. But when we were kids, I remember like when we used to stay over with my grandmother, we would cut across through the paddy fields as a shortcut to get to church in the morning. I mean, you don't get to do those. I don't know. Those are things you can't do in Chennai, right? So those are the things and my grandmother had this big garden with these bougainvillea trees, and there was a mulberry tree, and you know, as kids we used to like pluck the mulberries, and you don't get to do those things in Chennai.
No, that is something I miss a great deal
Yeah.
too, because these gardens, these little, the trees, the
Yes.
climbing, falling from the trees.
That's what
you
I
know,
miss.
All that
And
sort of
yes, and my mom's mom also had like this wood apple tree. I mean, you rarely even find those things. And my male cousins had this big tire, and they tied 2 ropes to the branches and made a swing.
It used to be such fun.
It used
such
to be
fun.
such, and all the wood apples that would fall, we would crack them open and eat it with jaggery and all those things.
Let's get into the turbulence of
The
teenage.
So yeah.
பசங்கெல்லாம் காத்துட்டு இருப்பாங்க அதை பத்தி கேக்குறது.
It's not so exciting. I mean, well, yeah, so soon after, I think those magical years of mine ended when Brian and Christine left to Australia. I suddenly found myself maybe with a lot of time on my hands. And I am quite lame during my turbulent teens. I mean, I was not doing anything exciting. I wrote poetry. That's what I did.
We'll get to that a little later. There's an entire book
I
of
used to go
poetry.
up to the terrace and just like be up there for hours and just, you know, blank out or write poetry and just sing to myself, and, you know, all that angst of, oh, nobody understands me and all.
Very
And
true.
then much later I realized, you know, writing poetry is pointless. Nobody reads poetry. So then I think that channeled into writing songs, which is a far more useful thing to do. But I do still write poetry sometimes, even now. It's a great emotional outlet for me. I wrote my first poem, I think, when I was a little kid. It was for my mom's birthday. The title of the poem was, "May you always wake up like the beautiful sun."
So,
I must have been like, I don't know, 6 or 7, I don't remember.
I can still remember, I can still probably picture the way your mother was, "Aww."
I don't think she was so impressed,
No,
actually.
she wasn't? I'm sure she wasn't. Anyway. So, music, very, very important part of your life, right? So, when did that start? Did you begin that in Arakonam itself?
In
Chennai,
Arakonam.
Madras,
It happened in Arakonam. Funny story. So when we were kids, my younger sister had a bad case of jaundice. So my parents were really worried, and, you know, like for 6 months, she was really young. So, you know, a lot of time went into her recovery. And so I think at some point they bought her a really big doll. And as it is, I was kind of being sidelined, I think. So just like a consolation prize, they bought me this little toy keyboard. And my grandmom, my mom's mom, maternal grandmother, she used to play piano as a young girl. So she would sit and teach me Mary Had a Little Lamb and all of that on the little toy keyboard. And then
You would have been how old?
This is before we even moved to Chennai. So
Oh.
I must have been,
5 or
really
6.
young, nothing older than that. So at that age. And apparently I seemed to show some flair for it. And soon after that, that was one of the reasons, I think. My mom felt that, you know, my dad was anyway, he's an advocate, and he used to come to the High Court, you know, for work. So I think my mom felt that Chennai would offer us better opportunities for the children, and also more convenience for my father, you know, less commute. So that's one of the reasons we moved to Chennai.
Okay. Do you still play the piano actively?
I do have the piano. Sadly, I don't play as much as I used to. For sure, I really don't. And just yesterday when I was sitting at the piano and playing it, I was really feeling so bad about it. But I do still play. It occupies pride of place in my house. And when I say I don't play as much, I mean back then when you had nothing to do and, you know, everything is taken care of, you can sit and play for like hours every day. Now I play for a few hours a week.
Okay, no, that's not bad.
I'm still,
Huh?
I can still play my Bach with some mistakes, but I can still do it.
That's nice. I've never heard you play the piano.
Really?
Never.
I did all those grade exams.
Up to what?
I did up to grade 5, and I was preparing for the grade 8. No, I did up to grade 6, I'm sorry. And I was preparing for that grade 8 exam when I started getting into theatre. And it was, you know, grade 8 is not easy. So you have to really put in solid hours. So it was like a toss-up between the two.
Were you learning from Christine Lal?
I did, and then I moved to Mrs. Jones Forrest.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. I think it's the right time for me to prod you
To sing a song.
to sing a song.
But of course, Andrea the jukebox.
Andrea is not just a Jew. Andrea is a damn good singer. Even, I've known that since Andrea was 11 years old.
Since we went
11
down.
years old. That's how I know.
Yeah, wasn't that? I remember this was the Sound of Music,
Sound of
right?
Music.
I was 11 and they wanted me to play 16 going on 17. Right? I remember it was like a, I mean, this may sound completely inappropriate, but I hadn't even, like, I wasn't wearing a bra. I hadn't even had my period yet, so I didn't even understand how to be a 16, 17-year-old grown-up woman. It was a very traumatic experience.
I know, I can imagine. I can imagine. Fortunately, she didn't come to me. I was playing the father.
I was really traumatized.
To help, yeah.
Because I had to romance a boy, and I was such a sweet, innocent girl. I didn't even like talk to boys then. It was quite strange.
She wouldn't allow anyone to come and watch her at the rehearsals. I remember that.
I used to feel so. I was mortified that I was cast to play that role. I could not understand why they chose
I still
me.
have. I saw photographs of that about a month ago.
Really?
Yeah, you and that guy. On
I
the
think it's because I was
stool.
tall. I was a tall kid.
Not just that, maybe because you were a good singer.
That's also
And probably nobody else could have carried off that song. Does that
fine,
make sense?
whatever.
No, but you were such a talented singer
God.
when you began. You've taken that into a completely different level now. We'll talk about the graduation,
Segue
but how
into that.
about a song just to ease us into it?
Yeah. Midnight, not a sound from the pavement. Has the moon lost her memory? She is smiling alone in the lamplight. The withered leaves collect at my feet, and the wind begins to moan. Memories all alone in the moon. We live in actually.
So, Andrea, English music, Western origins, Angirndu Tamil,
Yeah, I
playback, and the graduation every how did that happen?
I was minding my own business, doing my own thing. And then, this actor called Nakul. So we all used to meet at school culturals.
Nakul was the boy who was in Boys?
Boys, exactly. So he was in a different school, I was in, and all the boys used to have a crush on me in school because I used to sing. Like, oh my God, this girl sings so well.
Well, unfortunately, that's not the only reason.
Yeah, anyway, the
You
point.
have seen yourself in the mirror.
Yes, all right. But anyway, I think that was the thing I was very famous for in school, the girl who could sing. So Nakul happened to be cast in Boys soon after we all passed out of school. And I think he was with Harris Jairaj in his studio, and Harris was looking for a new voice. So he said, oh, this girl in my, she's so good, you should try her out. So he called me and said, hey, will you please come? So I went and did a vocal test, and Harris liked it, and so he kept my voice. And that was my first song in Onion. And then, since then, one thing just led to another. That's
So
about
effectively, you began with playback before the acting happened?
100%.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I didn't want to act for the longest time in films, and then eventually ended up doing it anyway.
No,
But-
the calling is there. Sometimes you just.
But now I think I have more films than songs.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, it's done. It's a complete U-turn now.
Why would you think that's the case?
It is the case. In the sense, I have more films coming out than film songs coming out in the
Okay.
next year, for instance. Yeah, but that also, it doesn't mean that I've stopped singing. It just means that my focus has shifted from playback to my own music, and you know, we're coming out with an album in a few months.
We as in?
Me and the band. We're called the Jeremiah Project.
Yeah. Yeah.
So, you know, strangely, I have the lockdown to thank for it, because everyone in my band is so busy, it is impossible to get them in the studio. But thanks to the lockdown, each person worked in their own home studios and finished their tracks. And once things opened up, I went to the studio, recorded my vocals, and it's been in the mix and master stage, and we just got done with it.
Awesome. So these
yeah.
are songs written by you,
Songs written by me.
composed
yes.
as well?
Yes, but I mean, I write the melody for it, and then my boys take over and add their magic, because they're all so fantastic. You know.
Okay. So that means you're saying, would you consider and state yourself to be first a singer, then an actress? And the joy, which gives you more joy?
That's a tricky question. I mean, singing is instant gratification.
Right.
Instant gratification, and just the thrill and joy of being on stage and people, like, you know, really enjoying the music, and the energy that comes back to you is nothing compares to that. But at the same time, lately I've realized that films, and I'm not even talking about going and watching a film in a theater. For me, the day I'm done with my last day of shoot, I'm done with the film. It's over.
Right.
It's out of my hands.
Okay.
So I detach from it. You know, everything else is a byproduct. I have nothing to do with it. But the process of making the film, you know, the process of getting into character for a role, I find that to be very spiritual and healing, and you know, that's the magic for me when it comes to acting. And it doesn't happen every film, it happens in a few films. It happened in a film called Annayum Rasulum, Taramani, and Vada Chennai, and now in Miskin's film Pisasatu. So some roles really, you know, make me go deep within myself and either discover something about me that I didn't know, or you know, come to terms with something or heal something. It's like because it's like leading parallel lives, right? It's very metaphysical when you think of it.
So are you saying then, say, if you're taking a role like what the ones you're saying,
like for example, let's say Pisasatu. Let's take Pisasatu for example. Pisasatu came after a long lockdown, and I mean, this lockdown we were kind of geared up for it because we were kind of prepared for it. Last lockdown it was all new for us.
Sudden.
It took a lot of, and it was a much longer, stricter nationwide lockdown, far more consequences and implications.
Correct.
Right? The sense of, you know, the sense of isolation that people felt during that, I found an outlet for all of that through this film. So in that way is what I mean.
Okay, now let's go further and find out. Let's find out what more she does. Okay, poetry is the last thing I'm going to talk about. But before that, Andrea is now a very generous philanthropist. She has set up a trust, which I'm going to ask her to talk to you about, so that you get to understand the idea of this whole thing that I'm having with Andrea is to give you a chance to get to know her, not as the actress that all of you know, not as the singer that you all know, as to the person that she is, the person that she has been and what she's becoming, right? So let's talk about this trust of yours, Sophia Trust, right?
The
Or is
Sophia.
it Sophia?
Sophia Trust,
Sophia
yeah.
Trust. Give us a sense of what it is about and why it happened.
Yes. So when I was in high school, moving on to college, and I really wanted to, my parents wanted me to study medicine, and I was a really studious student, so I had the marks, and then at the last minute I said, no, I don't want to study medicine, I want to study music. And I wanted to go to this college called the Berklee College of Music in Boston. And at that point of time, there was a whole bunch of factors that just did not allow it to happen. The RBI guidelines were changing, so they weren't giving out student loans, and we were not in such a great place financially that, how do I say, my dad will cry about it till date. He had given away a whole bunch of money to someone, and they weren't giving it back. So he couldn't afford to pay for my education, and no bank loans, and I ended up not going. And I mean, of course, maybe that was life's way of saying you are meant to do this instead, and I started working instead. But the idea of someone wanting to educate themselves and it not happening because of financial constraints really bothered me, and I thought I should never let that happen to people as far as it's in my control. And also I started doing this when I was in college. My mom's maid's daughter, suddenly started showing up at home and sweeping the house. So I said, what is she doing? She's supposed to be in, she's supposed to be in school. What is she doing here? So she said, no, her mother said she can't afford to pay the fees anymore, so she's going to start working. And I said, that's rubbish, So when I was in college, I used to make my own pocket money because I used to give piano lessons to kids and sing here and there, like little jingles, and I used to have my own little bank account, which I was very proud of. So I was like, I will pay for her education. So I did it, and I put her through college, and she now works as an accountant or something. And it's not like she has some great job. I'm sure she's earning.
No, it's way better than what you earn.
No, money wise, maybe she makes just a wee bit more than her sister who's a maid, but she makes it with a pen and not a broom, and at least she has the choice. And more importantly, educating her child is a no-brainer. She will 100% put her kid through it, school. Correct. And that child will have even more opportunities.
That's propagation. So so that being the case, and let's get to a little bit of your poetry.
Why not?
So you said you've been writing poetry since you were a kid.
Since
Andrea's actually published a book of her poetry called...
This is also linked to the trust, because every copy of the book that's sold, the money goes directly to the trust.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Very nice. Why don't you tell us a little bit about the poems, how long, where, when, what they were?
I was always
maybe read or sing one of them?
I will. Why not? I was always a closet poet, and then a few years ago, I think it was 2018 or 2019, the Bangalore Poetry Festival, for some random reason, decided to invite me as a guest. And one of my college mates is a published author. She writes this Hindu mythology based novels. Her name is Andrea. So she said, Andy, why don't you read some of your poems? So I was like, God, really, do I have to? And then I was like, okay, fine. So we decided to put them all together. It's a very handmade, homemade production. And one of my cousins is, she's a nurse by profession, but she likes to paint. So she made these really, I think it's visible.
You can see, right? Yeah.
These really cute little watercolored paintings, to go with some of the poems. And we decided to make a little handmade book. And I didn't want to sell it at all, I was like, this book is not for sale. I don't want to sell it. But there were a lot of people asking for copies. And then eventually last year what happened was, because of the lockdown, I wanted to think of ways of raising money for my trust. So I thought, this would be a good thing to do. It's an ongoing thing. Maybe some months we don't sell books, some months we sell a few books. But the point is money keeps going to the trust, And I hope to turn this into a performance package as well. 45 minutes of spoken and music, because I'm a singer, hey.
Yeah.
And I can sing my poems. So the point is to convert this into a performance package.
Please
with
do call
K-bar,
me. Please do call me.
Guitar, music, and some visual arts in the background. So,
Nice. Andrea, it's been beautiful. It's really been beautiful. But I think audience would love for you to sing them something in Tamil as well.
Why not?
And what about you doing one of these as well in song?
Yeah, I mean, some of these poems are put to music, a few of them. I could do one of those. This one is called Last Dance of the Leaves. It's really pretty, though I miss the guitar right now, but I can manage. Watch as I'm falling into the night, slow waking dance to the ground. Tears run like rivers across your face. You want me to stay around. Ricochet, strip away all the fears you've ever had. Dancing is all I can do for you, so watch me, watch as I fall. Dancing is all I can do for you, remember me as I fall.
Lovely.
It's about a leaf falling from a tree.
Lovely, lovely. Ethereal. That's the word I'd use. Completely ethereal. Now let's follow that up with a nice Tamil one. Right?
I don't remember what I sang for you guys the last time. Was it Idhuvarai? Was it Malayalam? I don't know. I might be repeating myself.
Satyamai.
Even I. And it's not like there's an audience which you can say, what song would you guys like to hear? I don't know. Which one would you like to hear? Let him decide.
Any song that you can think of hers?
Google பண்ணி பார்த்தேன் உலகத்தில் இவன் போல ஒரு கிறுக்கனும் பிறந்ததில்ல யாஹூ பண்ணி பார்த்தேன் இவனை போல எந்த கிரகத்திலும் இன்னொருத்தன் கிடைக்கவில்லை நான் டேட்டிங் கேட்டா வாட்ஸ்அப் பார்த்து ஓகே சொன்னானே ஷாப்பிங் கேட்டா email.com கூட்டி போனானே மூவி கேட்டேன் யூடியூப் போட்டு பக்கம் தந்தானே பாவமா நிக்கிறான் ஊரையே விக்கிறான் meet my boyfriend. This cracks me up. My smart and sexy boyfriend. நீங்க விஜய் fan தானே?
Lovely, that was nice. See,
the kids love this song. When I sing this on stage, people go crazy because it's like a really foot tapping song.
No, I must say something though. That is, it's not everyone who can sing all these kind of songs a cappella. Without instrumentation and still make it sound nice. Very few singers of these days can do it, in my opinion. I mean, you have to be trained from the classical era to learn to be able to do that. You know, you have to be. Yeah, that's right. So, what next for Andrea? Andrea writes poetry. Andrea's philanthropy. Andrea's an actress. She's a singer. Is Andrea going to write a story?
Yeah, I mean,
oh wow,
it's on the itinerary. Honestly, I've been really bad. I thought this lockdown, I got a laptop and I'm like, I'm going to write. I'm going to use this time wisely. All I did was play with my dog and bake cake. I have nothing to show for this lockdown except a lot of cake and a happy dog.
No, what I haven't mentioned to you is all these questions that I'm asking you have come from our Rotarians.
Oh, really? Well, I do know.
So the Rotarians are asking this.
I do intend to write a book. I do intend to write a couple of them actually. I just haven't gotten around to doing it.
No, I'm not talking about a book.
Then?
What say, the question was, will Andrea write a movie?
You never know. I mean, honestly, I have written a couple of scripts already.
Really? Wonderful.
I find writing a script easier than writing a book for some reason. So I have written a script. It's under review, and you never know. It could be. It's a story about It's a story about two single women, and it's called All the Men I Almost Married.
Another question from our Rotarian there goes further on this, which is, if you write a movie, will Andrea direct it?
No. No, there'll be a lot of dead bodies if I decided.
Why
I
is
don't
that?
have patience.
No patience?
No patience.
Okay.
No, 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 no.
I am surprised and
Flummoxed.
yes, flummoxed is the word, and impressed. I'm sure all of you, our idea here was to talk to you, to get Andrea to talk about herself, about everything that you didn't know about her. So I'm happy that we've got so much of information out of you about yourself. People know you so much better now. You'll probably find people giving you very different kind of looks now when you're walking on the street. Okay, so I have to say thank you very much on
Thank you
behalf
very
of
much for having me.